When I first heard about methylene blue, I thought this stuff is awesome. It increases serotonin, which will boost your mood. It increases dopamine, which will give you more drive and motivation. It improves your oxygen uptake, which is going to super boost your mitochondria, which is good for everything. Then I found out about some of the dangers, like inducing serotonin syndrome, which can actually end up in death. If you have a G6PD deficiency, it can give you hemolytic anemia. So I thought to myself, hey, I need to step back. I need to get properly educated and trained before I start using methylene blue, not only on myself, but with my patients. And now that I've had a couple years of clinical experience and I've been properly trained, today I'd like to share some of what I've learned with you. We're going to talk about the 5 major things that you should be considering if you're going to use methylene blue. Now, this is informational purposes only. You should be working with a healthcare practitioner if methylene blue is something you'd like to use. So first, let's start with the scariest one, which is serotonin syndrome. So if you're taking an SSRI, you're taking magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, or any other type of psychiatric meds, it can definitely induce serotonin syndrome. One of methylene blue's major mechanism of action is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. So it blocks the breakdown of serotonin and dopamine. And while this can help boost your mood, having too much serotonin can end up in death. People often get really confused, they get muscle rigidity, and their body just shuts down. And this is why you should really double check if you're using any type of psychiatric meds or even supplements like St. John wort before you mix it with methylene blue. So long story short, never combine this with anything else that's going to raise serotonin. There are even people who are afraid of mixing it with cheese and chocolate. Point number 2 is if you have a G6PD deficiency. Now, most people are only going to know this if you do a blood test. If you have the raw data from something like 23andMe, you can often check for it. But if you have a G6PD deficiency, taking methylene blue at high doses, your red blood cells basically end up rupturing. That's not good. You need your red blood cells to carry oxygen. And that's why this is an absolute contraindication, especially if you're doing high doses in an IV. There has been terrible outcomes when people have used high doses of methylene blue IV, not knowing that the person had a G6PD deficiency. So why guess when you can test? If you want to take methylene blue, get tested for a G6PD deficiency. That's what I did. I don't have it. And number 3 is going to be more cosmetic purposes. There are people who, if you're using it a dropper in something like water and you're mixing around your mouth, like, yeah, if you do it enough, you can get a light staining of your teeth or even your tongue. There are some people who are concerned that if you use it enough, you can get some internal organ staining. I've not heard of any cases. If you know of someone who, for whatever reason, had their brain, their kidneys, or their heart looked at and they happen to be blue, please leave your comments below. But there are some people who are concerned if their urine turns blue or maybe green if you took a B complex, which is yellow, right? Yellow and blue or green. So that can make people feel uncomfortable. And methylene blue can mess with pulse ox, which is how you measure the oxygen saturation in your blood. So something else to consider. And point 4, as a naturopathic doctor, I want to emphasize this a lot because you don't want to be putting something toxic in your body. So you really need to check your source of methylene blue. It's often been used for fish tanks, and in fish tanks, they don't care if there's heavy metals or there's chemical solvents in there that are toxic to humans. I personally use the methylene blue from Level Up Health. That's Chill Alert. I'm an affiliate with them. Or I'll use Transcriptions, or we use compounding pharmacies. Whatever you do, just make sure that it's third-party tested and that you're getting the good stuff. Now, point 5, a lot of people are using methylene blue for biohacking, for energy, to boost their mitochondria, but more is not always better. At low doses, methylene blue works like an antioxidant, and at higher doses, it becomes a pro-oxidant, similar to vitamin C and ozone therapy. So while these can be great for fighting off malaria or maybe some other type of infection, it can definitely lead to side effects of you not feeling very well. Most often with dosing with my patients, I like starting with a very low amount, 2, 5, 10 milligrams. I most often start with my patients about 10 milligram. It's often tolerated well with very low side effects, and most often people feel good. But if you have issues with MTHFR or COMT or other genetic SNPs, this can cause neurotransmitter imbalances. So again, why it's a good idea if you plan on using methylene blue to work with a healthcare practitioner. So while a lot of people are using methylene blue, myself included, it's really important to know that there's often no free lunch. There's always something that we should be mindful of. And with methylene blue, we need to be mindful of serotonin syndrome, G6PD deficiency, cosmetic issues, making sure that your product isn't contaminated, and making sure that you're finding the right dose. I hope you found today's information helpful. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy this one. Until next time, stay vigilant, my friends, and God bless.